Don't look over your shoulder, because there's still a chance here for the champion of France. A desperate effort after leading for almost all of the 232 kilometres. Mark Cavendish is bursting out of the pack. He's had to make a run very early here. He's challenged by the sprinters. Look at the speed of Mark Cavendish here. As we get the shot, he's wiped out the champion. Mark Cavendish, the youngest British rider ever to get a stage win in the Tour de France.
Hello, today the going gets diagonal for the first time on this year's Tour as the race climbs up here to the ski resort of Super-Besse in the Massif Central. But there's plenty of time to get to the gradient. We're going to spend the first few minutes of the show back on the flat, where Mark Cavendish won the greatest victory of his short career yesterday and confirmed on cycling's biggest stage what he already knew and wasn't afraid to tell people coming into this Tour, that he's the world's fastest sprinter. After 232 kilometres of the Tour's longest stage and 5 hours 27 minutes in the saddle, Cavendish caught the last of yesterday's breakaway riders, Nicolas Vaugondy, 2 seconds from the line in Châteauroux. It was a genuinely thrilling show of speed and power at the end of a long day's work for the Manx sprinter and his Columbia team. And it wasn't over. Stage winners on the Tour have to do overtime. Yesterday was Cav's first shift. After the fight to the finish and the fight to the podium, Mark Cavendish stepped down into a world of expanded opportunity and severely compromised personal body space. The mics of many nations were in his face for a good 20 minutes, until he escaped for 10 minutes with the world's written press. A minute later, he was finally alone, apart from his anti-doping escort, for probably the most enjoyable pee of his life. That was 8 minutes, including washing his hands, just as well because he had a few dozen strangers' ballpoints to borrow and give back, having provided his signature on a variety of improvised mementos. With most of his rivals already back at their hotels getting a massage, Mark was back on the bike again, and lucky not to be on the ground, scanning the horizon for his team car and almost winging a pedestrian. Another rolling interview or two later, he was finally on his way under someone else's horsepower, 55 minutes after he'd crossed the line. Even then he was tailed to the hotel by the remorseless representatives of the media, us.
As the sun dipped low in Châteauroux, the penny started to drop. Mark Cavendish had done exactly what he came here to do.
Can you put into work? Hey, the calls are still coming in. Says it all.
My mum, actually.
Go on.
Mum, I'll call you back, I'm on the telly.
That's the best answer of all, isn't it? It gets you to have a conversation. How many text messages have come through?
23 came through.
And counting. You crossed the line, we saw your arms fling into the air, and then you must have entered like a world of chaos at that point, because I was on the margins of it, getting pushed aside and all that sort of thing. What's it like to be in the middle of that hurricane of attention?
Don't know, I'm just looking for my teammates, really, you know?
Yeah.
Especially after the job they do, the first thing I want to do is see them and thank them, you know, and celebrate with them. So I think that's a big factor on why I win a lot, you know? When guys like that do put so much work into it, it really does eat you if you can't, you know, win after they sacrifice so much. They put so much work into it, you know. I feel like I'm obliged to win in a way. And
what were the steps up to the podium like, and standing on the podium with Bernardino and all that thing you must have seen 1,000 times over?
You know what, it was quite emotional actually. Like, I actually thought going off I'd end up in tears, but I was okay, you know, I was just savouring it. So.
Yeah, held it together.
Yeah.
You come to the Tour saying I'm the fastest rider in the world.
Yeah, I was completely confident coming in here. I was confident in my ability. I was confident in my team's ability and my team's cooperation, and yeah, it didn't quite work the first few days, but it finally worked in the end.
Yeah. Ring your mum.
Yeah,
give your mum a ring. Yeah.
Thanks.
Cheers, mate. Well done, mate. Cheers.
And with that, the 5-star sprinter checked into his 2-star room and disappeared from sight. But as sure as day follows night, stage 6 follows stage 5. Cavendish this morning, after a fitful night's sleep, fully refocused.
You look at the profile of today's stage and you know, I can't let it sink in too much, you know. It's I think I'm on the other end of the scale today. I'm going from elation to suffering all day. So
What's it about today, just survival?
a little bit, yeah.
3/4 of France still waits ahead of him, and who knows what might happen out on the road.
Well, I tell you what, it's more than just the rest of this race that Mark Cavendish has to look forward to. This morning, the French sports daily L'Équipe was announcing the start of a whole new era, Generation Cavendish. And over the next few days, I suspect his mobile, when he doesn't have it switched off to get a bit of peace, will be buzzing with the debate over when and whether he leaves this race. The British Olympic squad, of course, would love to have him at camp sooner rather than later to start preparing to win gold on the track in Beijing. Then again, if you're the fastest sprinter in the race, why not hang on through the mountains and try to win again on the Champs-Élysées in Paris 2 weeks on Sunday? Just a thought. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Today is a big day in itself, and it's one that David Miller will have his eye on. Yes, Miller is just 12 seconds behind the race leader, Stefan Schumacher, and if everything fell into place today, he could find himself following Mark Cavendish onto the podium to take the yellow jersey. Of course, Cavendish's team leader, Kim Kirkham, probably has exactly the same ambition, and he's tenths of a second ahead of Miller in second place. For Cadel Evans in fourth, of course, it's the resumption of the race for overall victory in Paris, which began with the Stage 4 time trial. He's 21 seconds off the lead. Denis Menchov is the closest of his big rivals, 51 seconds further back in 11th place. Then comes Damiano Cunego in 16th, 1 place and 1 second ahead of Alejandro Valverde. The three-headed climbing beast that is CSC might have a go with Carlos Sastre and the Schlecks. Mark Cavendish, for the record, is 5 minutes 58 back in 97th. Now, in just about any other recent tour, Mark Cavendish would have the opportunity to follow up his first stage win with his second. But this is not your standard Tour de France opening week. The organisers this year have opted to shake things up a little bit with a mountaintop finish just 6 days in, as early as most of us can remember. Not so good for the sprinters then, but certainly good for the race. There's stage 6, 831 kilometres of more than 3,500 raced so far, by the way. Another 195.5 today from Aigues-Rondes to Super-Besse. 4 climbs, including the one up to the finish at just under 1,300 metres, with a steep kick towards the end that could create some splits at the front. Are more than likely to be creating them CSC's Flying Schleck brothers, combining with their team leader Carlos Sastre.
Carlos is a big champion. I mean, he showed that the last 4 or 5 years, he's always been there in the Tour and finishing top 10 many times. And of course, he's the team leader. That does not mean that he'll be the best overall rider, but he leads the team. He's experienced, and that's why he's going to be team leader. How are we going to play our tactics? We're not going to give that secret now.
Yeah. I think definitely in the team there's the best climbers. That's Carlos, Frank and me. We are here and we're 100% in a good shape, and we also know if there's a way to beat the others, then it's going to be in the mountain. It's not going to be in the time trial where we make the difference. We have to try in the mountains, and I believe with us three we can do that.
Oh, we can do everything. I mean, a lot of people know that, or have seen or have felt it the way we ride together, and why not do it in the Tour?
So the Schlecks are up for it today. Sadly, Aurélien Passeron wasn't this morning. We saw him collide with a spectator on the run into Châteauroux yesterday. He's out with a back injury, so 4 men down, 176 left at the start in Aigues-Rondes this morning. And Thomas Voeckler tried to drop the other 175 at the moment that race director Christian Prudhomme dropped the flag. The peloton was having none of that, though, and reeled him back pretty quickly. Prince Albert of Monaco was in the lead car today, by the way. That's the kind of jolly you can swing when you're royalty, I suppose. But in this case, it was more than just a day out, because Monaco is the location of next year's Tour start. Now, Alejandro Valverde was at the doctor's last night after his crash on stage 5, various grazes and bruises, but the reports are that he's not as bad as the bandages might make him look. We'll soon find out. And tomorrow he might have a matching teammate in David Lopez, who went down at the feed zone and scraped himself all down his right side. Plambras, one of yesterday's escape group, also went over at the feed, and more significantly for the race overall, Cadel Evans was at the back, having suffered some sort of mechanical problem. And perhaps not as relaxed as he might be, Cadel, remonstrating with one of the Garde Républicaine he thought wasn't quick enough to make way for the team car as he looked to get himself paced back to the main field. Now, the day started in brilliant sunshine, just as well for this school project to make a giant yellow jersey, but there was some pretty heavy rain in bursts. And unlike most race leaders these days who come kitted out with an all-weather yellow wardrobe, Stefan Schumacher seemed to be reduced to the Jack and Jill approach, vinegar and brown paper or something that looks suspiciously like it. Now the day's breakaway, like yesterday's, comprised 3 Frenchmen, Agri-Tubel's Freddy Bichot, Benoit Vaugrenard of Française des Jeux, and Sylvain Chavanel of Cofidis, who of course was part of the big break on stage 2. Now Chavanel led over the first 2 summits of the day to pick up maximum points in the King of the Mountains competition. We pick up the action now on the 3rd climb, the 1400-metre Col de la Croix-Moron.
And here's the first move, and it comes from Crédit Agricole.
Well, that's a surprise to start so early as this climb, because only 2 minutes. They were beginning to pull away on the climb here. This could be is it one of the tall riders, that's for sure, on Crédit Agricole. Is it Jimmy Engoulevent? And already at the front, one of the leaders decided enough is enough as Benoit Vaugrenard drops away. Well, certainly Chavanel will push on here because he wants the points at the top before that peloton catches up.
Well, he really did pop straight out of the back of that group, and I'm sure it's all because of the pressure of this man, Sylvain Chavanel, who's still getting a little bit of help from Freddy Bichot. Well, that's dramatic, the backdrop that we're looking at here once again. It looks like a painting that somebody's put together.
5 kilometres, 3 miles still to climb. It is Rémi Porriol, who is the rider who's put in a bid for glory here to catch the leaders. And there's another move here coming from Barlow World. I think this is one of the Italian riders on the squad.
It looks like Felix Cardenas has decided to come out to the front. And that indicates to me that in the main field, Phil, what is happening there is a lot of the big contenders are actually watching each other, and they realise that the serious showdown is going to happen on the final climb of the day, and they're not expecting it to happen here. And there's another move coming off the front here now. It's Saunier Duval. A lot of teams now have decided that there's going to be no reaction, so they're going to try and form a breakaway before we get to the summit of this climb.
But this is how the breakaways now build, you see, and look, they're getting a little group up front here. Euskaltel Euskadi put the Spanish on the hills, and they're in their element, and there's 2 of them got into this move as well. 5 riders now. Look at the faces. This is a serious attack now, and this is going to worry Gerolstein. They're losing a little bit of control just now.
Well, there's a Lampre rider just nipped onto the back of that. It may well have been the flowing locks of Damiano Cunego.
This looks like it's curtains for Mark Cavendish, another sprinter who has decided to just take it easy, not lose too much time, and he'll look for a few friends coming off the tail of that peloton shortly, and they'll ride home together.
Euskaltel Euskadi looking over their shoulders, seeing that in fact the majority of the main field have come back. And will there be a moment of truce? Somehow I don't think so.
Well, I would have liked to actually get a closer look at that Lampre rider. I think it was Cunego. That's why the peloton has reacted. But that reaction, you know, has closed the gap here to Porriol. He's not really very far ahead. They're just around that corner. As he continues, there they are, right behind him. So he was going away nicely, but then one of the favourites appears to have attacked, and they had to react from that. Back up with the 2 leaders. Chavanel is just a couple of kilometres away from becoming the new leader in the King of the Mountains competition.
This is a little bit further down the slope behind the 2 leaders. Benoit Vaugrenard on the right-hand side in the white jersey of Française des Jeux. He's about to get picked up first of all by Rémi Porriol over on the left-hand side, but more seriously by the whole of the main field, which is under the control of Caisse d'Epargne, the team of Alejandro Valverde. All over the front end of the main field, the men in red and black, Caisse d'Epargne, the teammates of Alejandro Valverde. Jose Luis Leon Sanchez there in second position, and this indicates to me, Phil, that there's not much wrong with Alejandro Valverde today.
Unless they're trying to control the speed, to ease it down to match his pace, which he wants maybe. He's put the whole team on the front here.
1 kilometre now to go to the summit, Phil, for the 2 leaders. I'm pretty certain now that Sylvain Chavanel has got this pretty much in the bag.
Yes, he's done well to hold off to this, I think. I thought earlier on, until the rain came, the bunch were going to pick them up, but the rain seemed to alter their feelings for the day. And there's the face of the leader of the King of the Mountains, peering around. For how many places get points, Paul?
6 places get points here, and currently I think there are still 3 riders in front. That's the climb, the first big climb of the Tour de France this year, and there is the banner over the summit, and that is what Sylvain Chavanel in the red and white jersey of Team Cofidis has been dreaming about, Phil, for the last 8 kilometres. It looks, if Thomas Voeckler gets himself 4th place, he will lose out on keeping that jersey, Phil, by a single point.
Well, watch out, because I think Poriol may be back in the pack here. So it may not be over for Vukra.
And in fact, if he gets third place, I just made a quick calculation. In fact, he will be equal on points with 27, but he's not come through. There he goes.
Well, there he goes. He's going to take third place, that's for sure, because there's no reaction from the field. He's being chased by Francis de Jeu here. But he looks at that line. He may have gone a little bit too soon. No, he's confident, I think. He zips up. Third place. We've seen his face on Vukra so often. There's his third place. Hey, he's not waiting.
27 points each. We'll have to go to the countback of the number of victories over the top of the climbs to know who's going to get the jersey tonight.
I have a feeling they'll give it Chavanel, because today was a second category climb. He probably will get it. Welcome back to the Tour de France here on ITV4. 6 day of racing today and a tough finish here at Super-Besse, but the weather at least is on the riders' side. Time now for your emails from the commentary box. Let's have a look at the first one. It comes in from Terry Davis from Cambridge. Terry is asking, how many calories do the riders burn up on a stage of the Tour de France?
Well, it depends really, Phil, what kind of stage it is, and it depends also on climatic conditions. On the flatter stages, a rider will burn around about 5,000 calories, but on the big mountain stages, that figure can be as high as 8,000.
All right, well, to give you some idea of the scale of the Tour de France, I think we can make a comparison here to the great victory by Rafael Nadal in the Wimbledon Championships. He played 7 matches. His total playing time was 18 hours and 32 minutes, and that included that epic final, which was almost 5 hours. Well, Stefan Schumacher is leading the Tour de France after 5 stages. His riding time is 19 hours and 32 minutes, and we're not even a quarter of the way through yet. I think that shows you just how big the Tour de France is and what an effort it requires by the riders. Let's go on to the second question then. This is coming from Ed Simpson in Greenwich. What is the significance of the yellow numbers some riders are wearing?
Well, we all know that the yellow jersey indicates the man who leads the race on the shortest time. Well, the yellow numbers is for the team that leads on the shortest time, and the team competition is actually the time taken on the first 3 riders of each team every day. Added together, the team with the shortest time is the team leaders, and at the moment, I think it's Team Garmin-Chipotle leading.
It is indeed. The top 3 teams, Garmin-Chipotle, Team Columbia and CSC Saxo. I can also tell you that those 3 teams have signed up for the Tour of Ireland, which you can see here on ITV4 towards the end of August. And that means Mark Cavendish will be there. All right, the third question then. This one comes in from Sarah Evans, Cardiff. How can the chasing peloton time the catch of the breakaway so close to the finishing line as they did yesterday?
Well, I don't think they calculated. In fact, it was a miscalculation yesterday by the main field, because normally what they will try and do is pull the breakaway back at around about 10 to 15 kilometres to go, using my favourite little recipe of pulling back a minute for every 10 kilometres of the race. However, yesterday the main field really got caught out, I think, by the strength of those 3 men up front.
Well, when Mark Cavendish actually got alongside the last of that breakaway, Nicolas Vogandy, there was only 2 seconds of the race still to go. Let's go back to the action. As they descend here now, the second category climb, and try to reform at the bottom, we have 2 riders out front. We've got 3 chasers establishing now. Oh, they're about to come back here. Voigtler kept it going over the top with Verdugo in the orange jersey and with Sandy Cassar, but they were deemed to be too good. So the black jerseys of Case Depon, of Alejandro Valverde, has shut them down. To me, they are preparing Valverde to launch him up Super-Besse.
Yeah, I think Valverde has looked at this race finish, and he knows he's got a race finish under his belt already with the win that he took at Plumelec, and he feels that this is not going to be a major mountain finish this afternoon, but it's the kind of mountain top finish that would suit him. But he's going to have to ward off attacks, I think, Phil, from riders like Damiano Cunego from Italy and from Team Lampre, and of course from Riccardo Rico, who earlier this year finished 2nd overall in the Giro d'Italia, and of course won himself the best white jersey as the young rider.
And let's not forget Team Columbia's Kim Kirken, because Brian Holm has told us he will attack when he gets to the climb. And what about David Miller? He's also promised us that as well. Can be a great last climb.
It's going to be a dramatic final climb. The first time that the big contenders of the Tour de France will have crossed swords, really. The first time they got to go out and play was in the individual time trial. They're pulling off the team cars there. That's an indication that the gap is starting to come down. They start to clear the gap out when it gets to around about the 30-second mark. But on a descent like this, I think they will pull the cars out a lot quicker. There's a car there parked on the side of the road.
Yes, now breaking down here from around about 75 kilometres an hour for that hen. That's like the motif of the Tour de France this year. They must have planned that on purpose as we go around the top of it. 46 seconds, the peloton now, and they're closing in quickly. There's no holding them back now. It's every man for himself. Half of the field in the Tour de France is reforming behind this main field we're looking at.
Yes, all of the sprinters will be in the gruppetto or the autobus, just thinking about how they're going to ride up this final climb of the day and keep themselves inside of the time limit. The time limit is a certain percentage of the winner's time on every individual stage that every rider has to finish inside of. Well, we're hovering at around about the 50-second mark, and the next town that these riders will go through should be Chambon-le-Lac. 28 kilometers to go to the finish, and this is what it looks like. And this is the second group on the road. This will be the group with most of the sprinters in. I'm presuming this is the group, of course, of Robbie Hunter.
It's a lovely day now. They've ridden through that rainstorm, which we never got here at Super-Besse. The sun is shining. The wind is quite strong on the mountain, though, and it will be crossed for most of the climb. So the riders are going to have to watch out for that. It won't be an easy ascent today, although the sun will keep them nice and warm. 48 seconds. They're not really chasing down that breakaway. They're just working hard now. The breakaway will come back as a consequence of this. There's Valverde, look, yeah.
Yep, having a chat with some of the other guys in the group around him. There's Christian van der Velde over on the on the right-hand side,
yeah.
With Garmin Chipotle.
He's having a great tour so far. He's high up in the overall classification, 6th place, so he's poised in the right position to go with the move when it comes, and it will. Look at the crowd here cheering on these two boys. We're racing along slightly flat roads at the moment before we get onto the road up to Super-Besse. It is a beautiful climb, by the way, today. The road surface is magnificent.
We're just going past a very interesting lake here. This is the Chambon lake that you might just have seen the riders going by there. It was actually formed by a volcano, Le Tartaret, which got blocked up. The bed of the volcano got blocked up, and it's since then filled up with water. And it's actually only 4 meters deep.
And it's spread over 150 acres of land, so that was a big volcano top.
Quite a pop when it went off.
It would have done, yes.
Just at the back of the group here, this looks like Leif Hoster dropping back. He's obviously going back to look after his teammate Cadel Evans.
Cancellara's high place overall too. He's there.
Yeah, Cancellara is the kind of rider who could hold on to his high place in the overall classification today, but it depends, Phil, on whether or not he wants to sacrifice himself for the Schleck brothers. And I've seen him looking after Andy Schleck quite a bit. And Andy Schleck is one of the guys who has said very openly that he wants to attack today as well. They'll be queuing up.
You're right, they'll be queuing up. They'll all go over the top together because they'll all attack at the same time. Peter Weening is the Rabobank rider sat near the back. He's ridden most of his tour at the back so far.
I just noticed Trent Lowe slipping backwards as well there, so nice to see that he was still in this leading group of contenders.
Welcome back. You join me outside the TV commentary position where I've nabbed a very famous Danish rider from his commentary duties for a minute. 1996, Rolf Sørensen, the last time the Tour came here, you won the stage. Tell us about that event.
Well, winning the stage was, for me, a big achievement because normally I was not able to win in the mountains. But I managed to get over the top, and it was a little further up the road, 96. Today it's about 1 kilometer before that it was in 96, and that meant a lot for me because I just had a little bit of recovery and I could do a sprint in a big chain ring, and today they are not going to do it in a big chain ring because it's very, very steep, only 700 meters down the road. So for me, somebody's going to lose time today, and as I see the Tour de France this year, they won't win it with 5 or 6 or 7 minutes like they did in the Lance Armstrong days. Here, every day, every second counts, like Lance also said. And I think that's how you win the Tour. You gain 20 seconds one day, 10 the other, 5, and so on. And that's what I make the difference.
We are approaching 15 kilometers to go. The gap is 20 seconds. The one leader, the survivor of the three-man breakaway, is Freddy Bichou. Here he is now as he makes his run towards the start of the climb. As we head up the valley here before we hit the climb at the far end of it. He is being chased by Alexander Botchov. You can just see him under 15 to go now. Nothing in it. There's the peloton. 19 seconds the spread.
In fact, you might just have noticed as they went under 15 kilometers to go, the main field relaxed a fraction. They now know that they can pull these guys back at any time that they want to. And
well,
they've got Alexander Botchov back in the main field, and I think they're just having a little bit of respite before what's going to be a serious number of attacks once we get to the climb.
Well, Botchov slips into the peloton. Nobody looks at him. Vincenti Garcia da Costa, the man who's doing the pacemaking for the moment at the front for Case Depon. This is the body of the field here. All of the race leaders, the favoured men for a win in Paris, will now pay attention. They can't give anybody any seconds. This has been a very unpredictable Tour de France so far, and I think the men we have referred to as the favourites will all be watching one another now.
A little bit of slowing down now. They've got Bichot in front, and they've decided now just to leave him out there to dangle, because they know that once he gets to the climb, Phil, he's sadly going to pop.
I think he might have popped. He's eased out of the saddle. They're all massing behind. They're all waiting for someone to make a move now. I think the move will come from the less obvious initially, and then we'll see what happens. That peloton has got very big again. I don't think everybody's got back, but a lot have.
Well, a lot of the sprinters won't have got back. The Thor Hushovts and the Robbie McEwens, and of course the Mark Cavendishes, they'll be in the group a little bit further back. But yes, one or two riders will have taken the risk to get themselves back into the group, just to be on hand to help a leader out, if possible, with a change of a tyre, change of a wheel, or something that might be advantageous on the run in towards the finish. The échappée terminée, as they say in French. It's all over now for Freddy Bichot, who's just going to slip back there on the right-hand side, try and get onto the back step of the bus as it goes by, but it's going to be very difficult for him.
In the lead for 170 kilometres. That's another big ask today for a French rider. And now he'll slip into the pack and probably off the back.
Sylvain Chavanel just over there on the right-hand side. I think he did the most sensible thing. He sat up and waited to get himself into the main field.
Cancellara back, Paul.
Well, Cancellara, I think, just went back to get drinks to the team car to look after his own team leader. That's Chavanel there, number 181. Just moving up through the field, trying to see who has made the junction here, who has made the risk of getting back on the descent before the start of the final climb. And it's right up at the top there is where we're headed to.
Lovely road now to the summit.
11.5 kilometres to go. The climb in earnest starts at around about the 11-kilometre mark. It's an average gradient, the climb, of around about 7%, but the last 4 kilometres it really kicks into 10%. It depends just how they attack the first few kilometres, who is going to get eliminated from the race. So there's the start of the climb, the banner on the side of the road. There's a crash at the back. French national champion's gone down. Eric Zabel has gone down. So amazing to see that the former German national champion was in the group. Nicolas Vaugondy went down as well. One of those silly little crashes at the back end of the main field. Vaugondy stretching his legs, probably saying, oh, well, I think I'll just ride to the finish now. It's not much point trying to ride yourself into this race and put yourself into the red zone. Now here are the moves at the front end of the main field. And these are some of the lesser riders. And this is the start of the climb. That's where we're heading to. We've been over the little spike, which was the second category climb, and now we're lining ourselves up for the final climb of the day. This looks to me as if this is Laurent Lefebvre on the front here for Bouygues Telecom. And the rider with him is Amael Moinard, the rider from Cofidis, and they've got themselves about a 15 to 20 metre advantage off the front end of the main field. And these kind of attacks are a little bit annoying. It's like a mosquito. It's swatting flies for the men in the main field there, and they will ignore them, but just pull them back slowly.
Well, this is the starter move by...
Laurent Lefebvre is the man from Bouygues Telecom, and Moinard is the rider from Team Cofidis. But it's not much of an advantage, Phil. The climb hasn't really started in earnest. And I think these are the kind of riders you were starting to talk about a little bit earlier. Riders who are probably a little bit further down in the overall classification will be given a certain amount of freedom.
These are the guys who could pull off the surprise win today while the shadow boxing continues back in the main field. As we climb here with just nearly 8 kilometres left to ride, the peloton has suddenly become under attack from a lot of riders who have noted the infighting which is going on between the leaders projected of the Tour de France, and it's a good chance for these riders to get away.
Well, those two chasers, in fact, have joined the two leaders, so we're looking now at a four-man leading group, and Laurent Lefebvre there almost got caught out by that acceleration. And once again, Phil, it's all of the French teams. Lefebvre, I think, deciding the better part of valor is to go back to the main field because it's starting to hurt out here.
And this is Filippo Pozzato here, the leader of Liquigas. Bit of a surprise, this, being rejected by the peloton there. He's lost ground and he's gone. And just looking to the group now, it is Christophe Lumervel, that rider in the middle in green. He's been very active. You may remember he was working very hard yesterday on the run-in to bring the peloton back for Thor Hushovd, his teammate. But now this is a counter move here. Vladimir Efimkin, that's a good move by Efimkin. He is a very strong rider, and this is his speciality.
This is a very strong move.
I forgot about his colours there.
Very strong move by him. And in fact, he's left the other two behind there, very quickly going to get pulled in by the main field, which is still being pushed along there under the auspices of Case d'Epargne, the Spanish team of Alejandro Valverde.
Well, Vladimir Efimkin, he came across, ironically enough, from the Case d'Epargne squad in the winter. He is a good bet here to take this. He's a strong climber.
Another move, and this is David Moncoutier.
And we saw him sitting at the back of the race not 2 hours ago, and he's moved right to the front and planned the move here. We expected this, I think, Paul. The riders have noted what's going on, the shadow boxing, and they've thought, right, we can gain time here. This looks like the rear of Pino, I think it is, at the back of the race. Federigo, it was rather.
Federigo, former French national champion. Moncoutier, Phil, I think has almost got himself across the gap. Not much more than about 50 metres for him to rejoin the leader. Let's not forget, towards the end of last year, he had a very nasty accident. In fact, he broke his leg, and his first race back at the start of the year was the Tour Down Under in Australia. And after that, he got himself into form again. But, you know, as you say, Phil, he doesn't win an awful lot of races. But when he does, he really is quite phenomenal.
And this is Christian van der Velde for Garmin-Chipotle, who has launched an attack here, and they may not react even yet. They are just tempo pacing. Alejandro Valverde back there. Riders are slipping away.
Well, Christian van der Velde was 6th overall at the start of the day, just 37 seconds behind Stefan Schumacher. So a move like this by Christian van der Velde could add a yellow jersey to the pink one that he got in the Giro d'Italia.
And that's Leonardo Pipoli who's joined him. He's got a good ally there in Pipoli, who's a great climber. He came out of the Tour of Italy this year,
well,
and they've gone sailing past those two guys up front, and they're pushing on. Well, this is a huge move by Garmin-Chipotle, Paul, because they already lead the team race as well. Christian van der Velde, we think, is on good form, and he's not really that well known by the big riders in that pack here. And there he is now. He is riding strongly. He's full of confidence. Efimkin, you see, was able to lift his pace. Moncoutier wasn't. Now, for whatever reason, the pack there is not raised its pace. Now, is Valverde hurting? That's the question.
I don't think Valverde's hurting. He's watching which riders attack. Another acceleration now coming from the riders from Euskaltel-Euskadi.
And the polka dot jerseys had his day as well. He's slipping away. He'll be handing that across to Sebastian Chavanel tonight. Sylvain Chavanel, tonight. Jens Voigt has gone as well. This is hurting now.
There are now just two leaders at the front end of this bike race. Leonardo Pipoli in the yellow and white jersey of Saunier Duval, and of course the American on the American team, Christian van der Velde, has made the move at the right time, and he's banking, I think, Phil, on the fact that they might not respect him as a climber, because throughout his career he's been a lot more regarded as a real time trialist. He really is a stylist. He learned that style from riding on the track. He rode for the American Team Pursuit squad many years ago in the Olympic Games.
Well, Leonardo Pipoli presses on as he tries now. Remember, he crashed out of the Giro d'Italia this year, and he abandoned, in fact, the Giro d'Italia, the Vuelta de España last September as well, because it was a good reason. And he was leading the King of the Mountains there, and his wife gave birth.
Well, one thing I think, Phil, that this first big mountain stage is revealing to us is that Case d'Epargne is a very strong team.
This could be a brilliant move by Christian van der Velde, and he could have hit them at the right time. He's got to hang on. 1.5 kilometres to go. This is now the steepest part of the climb, and I'm afraid it gets a little bit steeper as well. Just look at the crowd here. They have had to leave the cars at the bottom. They've not been allowed to come up to the summit. So when you get to the top, most of the people have walked the last 2 or 3 kilometres of this mountain, and they're seeing one of only 4 Americans in the Tour de France turn on the style in the race for the next yellow jersey. And talking of the yellow jersey, no reaction from Schumacher.
Well, Schumacher's sitting there in about 8th or 9th position. Van der Velde now looking over his shoulder. He now knows that the acceleration is coming. Christophe Moreau is boom out of the back of this this group, but it's the excitement at the front end of the main field. People is still surviving. Watch out for the acceleration there. In 5th place is Cadel Evans. Right in front of him is Ricardo Rico. He's the rider with the yellow helmet. A lot of people are tipping him to get the victory this afternoon. The Rabobank rider in the middle there is Denny Menchov. The big names are coming to the front. There is Kim Kirken there in the pale blue jersey. The roll of honour, Phil, of the professional bike riders looking to win the Tour de France this year are all at the front of the pack, and Stefan Schumacher is comfortably there.
Schumacher in yellow has put all of the pre-race at 1 kilometre to go, pre-race Tour favourites in front of him. He only has to finish with them in the same time. There's no bonuses. He will keep his yellow jersey. If nobody attacks, I've got a feeling he won't attack. He'll just go to the summit of this mountain. But the tempo is so high. Look how it's blowing out this line of riders. Moreau in the middle in that white and green jersey came here with a little ambition. Well, he's seeing it disappear on the climb of Super-Besse. And the Case d'Apon riders are running out of pacemakers here. Sooner or later, I think somebody's going to go.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, they might be running out of pacemakers, but there are the guys this afternoon, Phil, have done the job for Alejandro Valverde. They're pulling off now, and now we're going to see who is the one who's got the acceleration. Menchov was on the left-hand side, Cadel Evans on the right-hand side, and this is the difficulty at the back. And there is Damiano Cunego not enjoying this last 1.5 kilometres.
No, he's not, and I'm surprised to see that. But Cunego, who we thought had good form, is shaking his head a little bit there. These riders under extreme pressure here now, as the big men of the Tour de France suddenly have lifted the tempo. Look at the gaps that have been forced open here now. And Kim Kirken is still up here. The yellow jerseys here. Menchov, Evans, Ricardo Rico, Valverde. All of these riders going shoulder to shoulder to the summit.
The only man who's got a teammate left in there to give him any hand at all is Alejandro Valverde, and his teammate has come straight back up to the front. That's Oscar Pereiro on the front now, trying to set the sprint up here for Alejandro Valverde. Moving up. Look at the man on the right-hand side in the yellow jersey. The white and yellow jersey. That is Ricardo Rico. He's waiting to pounce. His nickname, by the way, is the Cobra.
And the man we haven't mentioned, Frank Schleck, the champion of Luxembourg, is here as well. This is it. And now Pereiro, who was given the Tour de France after Landis was disqualified. And there's a crash here. Schumacher's touched the wheel. The yellow jersey is in trouble. And as they sprint for the summit of the hill here, Ricardo Rico is going for it. And there will be time lost, I think, for the yellow jersey. Depends how the judges read the last kilometre rule. But look at this. The man called the Cobra is striking again, as he did in the early days of the Giro d'Italia. He gets the stage when Valverde is second, but locked right on his wheel, Cadel Evans, Frank Schleck, and then comes Kirken, and then comes one of the riders there, I think it's Roman Kreuziger of Liquigas comes over.
Well, I have a funny feeling, Phil, we may well see that they will not apply the kilometre rule on a climb like this, because this is a mountain-top finish, and we're going to get a change in the overall classification.
Well, I really think they will split time the riders. Now, look in the distance there. There is the yellow jersey coming up towards the line of Schumacher. I make him down by 32 seconds, so he's definitely lost that leader's yellow jersey. Not a very nice way to lose it, but you know, the best place of the front runners, Kim Kirken, I think he'll be the next leader. Now let's have a look now at the slow motion of the accident here. Really unfortunate, but as you can see here, there's a move, and it looks to me as though Kim Kirken is the rider that Stefan Schumacher has hit his back wheel. It looks as though Kirken moved across to his right, up the inside of Frank Schleck, but it was Kirken's wheel. Now, how ironic is that going to be? Because Kirken, I think, will be in yellow.
Stefan Schumacher, though, didn't seem so sure, or at least his team didn't, because having got onto the bus for a consolatory leg rub and ego massage, they sent him off again in the direction of the podium. It was a wasted journey, though. The president of the commissaires was clear on the rules and how they applied.
Malheureusement, il est victime du règlement, puisque l'arrivée est en sommet, et donc la règle du dernier kilomètre et des 3 derniers kilomètres ne joue pas, si bien qu'il est crédité du temps au moment où il passe la ligne.
So no restoration of lost time for Schumacher, which left the stage result looking like this. Ricardo Rico was the winner, that was never in doubt, with a second's worth of clear air between him and the two Tour favourites, Alejandro Valverde and Cadel Evans. Frank Schleck and Kim Kirken were 4th and 5th, another 3 seconds back. Schleck's CSC teammate Carlos Sastre was 8th. Dennis Menchov was on the same time as Sastre, 7 seconds back. Schumacher's crash cost him those 32 vital seconds. He didn't lose them to David Miller, though. He lost 52 himself today, along with his chances of taking yellow. Well, he took a late decision to ride the Tour, Ricardo Rico, and clearly a worthwhile one. He's known for talking big, but having promised a good showing this morning in the papers, he actually delivered.
Sì, sono molto contento perché battere Valverde su questi arrivi con la grande condizione che ha lui è una bella soddisfazione, vincere davanti a tutti questi grandi campioni che sono qua al Tour. Oggi sono molto contento sia per me che per la squadra.
Now, there's always a low-speed autobus on mountain stages full of sprinters and assorted hangers-on, but it doesn't usually account for nearly a third of the field. 52 riders rolled home together, 17 minutes 46 behind the winner. In there somewhere, listening to his iPod and reading a magazine, was Mark Cavendish. And he'll have been ecstatic to hear that his team leader was the new race leader. Kim Kirken gave everything for Cavendish yesterday. Simple physiology prevented Mark from returning the favour today, but Kirken made his own luck on the run-in, although inadvertently. He spoke to Ned.
You're strong, your team is extraordinarily strong. It was a great ride from you today. Can you just tell me what happened with Schumacher? Did you know what happened when he hit the deck?
No, actually not. I have been on the right side, so they closed and everybody was breaking down in front of me, so I had to break down too. And I couldn't go for the victory then. I lost too much speed and I lost the stage too. And Schumacher I haven't seen for the last 2Ks.
And the next few days?
Next few days we try to control the race, would be hard. But I have a good team and I have a lot of confidence.
Thanks, Kim. Well done.
Thank you.
So here's how the standings look after stage 6. Kim Kirken now leads the Tour by 6 seconds from Cadel Evans. Stefan Schumacher slips to 3rd. David Miller is just behind his Garmin-Chipotle teammate Christian van der Velde in 5th. And just ahead of Thomas Löfqvist, Denis Menchov and Alejandro Valverde. Today was Miller's chance to take yellow, and he had no illusions about the chance presenting itself again.
Realistically, no. I'd rather go for stages now. But we'll see what happens. Anything can happen.
As Stefan Schumacher will testify. The CSC riders, Sastre and the Schleck brothers, were anonymous today. They're still well within striking distance, though. Ricardo Rico is up to 31st, but still nearly 4 minutes down. Chris Froome is 97th, and Mark Cavendish 141st. Right, we're fast running out of time after all tonight's finish line explanation, so let's get right on with the competition. Your chance to win a test of luck with that. A new competition with a new prize, by the way, coming up during Sunday's live coverage of Stage 9. Now, today's stage put us over 1,000 kilometres for the Tour so far, 1,027 of the 3,559 to be exact. Let's take a look ahead at tomorrow's profile. There you go, confirmation of kilometres raced so far after 6 of the 21 days. Tomorrow it's another 159, the shortest open road stage we've had, from Brioude to Aurillac. It's another day's climbing though, not giant cols, but enough to be getting on with ahead of the Pyrenees and the Alps, which still loom ahead. 5 categorised climbs to get over before a downhill run to the finish. We'll have the highlights of that stage at 7 tomorrow. As usual, it's all on the red button, live and uninterrupted if you're a Sky Satellite or Virgin Cable subscriber. Everything the French broadcasters cover, you can see too. And of course, don't forget the website for your emails and the podcast with Matt, Ned and Bob Roll, who will no doubt be discussing today's leadership change. So, crash costs Schumacher race lead. It's almost too easy for the headline writers, isn't it? Team Columbia have been good value for their newsprint acreage so far in this race, though. A stage win for Mark Cavendish and 3 of the 4 jerseys, yellow, green and white, with Thomas Löfqvist leading the young riders competition. No prizes for guessing which of his 2 Kim Kirken is going to be wearing tomorrow. We have got our 4th yellow jersey of this year's Tour, and Kirken will be doing all he can to hold on to it tomorrow on stage 7 on the road to Aurillac. We'll see you then.